You're in the water loop.
Since launching in 2014, the Clean Water Partnership in Prince George's County, Maryland, has provided a blueprint on how the government and a company can work together to simultaneously tackle environmental challenges and achieve community and business development. In this episode, Roland Jones of CIS and Jim Lyons of Prince George's County discuss how this groundbreaking, community-based, public-private partnership has implemented extensive green infrastructure while ensuring that 80% of the $340 million spent stays in the county. The initiative includes a mentor-protégé program that has trained and empowered 60 firms. Projects like the Treat and Teach program at schools combine environmental education with practical infrastructure upgrades, reaching over 40,000 students so far. By prioritizing local businesses, workforce development, and community outreach, the Clean Water Partnership sets a national example of how the public and private sectors can collaborate. This episode is sponsored by CIS, a leader in community-based public-private partnerships that transform water infrastructure while making a meaningful impact on communities. With a focus on economic inclusion, multi-benefit solutions, and urban sustainability, CIS has overseen nearly $500 million in stormwater infrastructure projects across more than 50 municipalities. Their work doesn't just meet environmental and financial goals, it also opens doors for small, minority, and women-owned businesses, ensuring that local residents directly benefit from investments. CIS is truly grounded in partnership and focused on impact. Learn more at cisolutions.com. First, I spoke with Jim Lyons of Prince George's County about the origins of the Clean Water Partnership. Well, Jim, excited to be here in Prince George's County to talk to you about the Clean Water Partnership. Could you tell me just why this originated, kind of how this concept of a community-based public-private partnership was hatched?
County had at that time 30,000 impervious acres that didn't have sufficient treatments on them. 30,000 acres. It's a monumental number.
Yeah.
So as part of the permit, there was a rollout phase. So they were going to do about 6,000 acres a year over a five-year permit period. But even that is still unheard of in the scale and scope. And so the county had to start to dedicate money and resources towards that huge problem. So our county exec at the time decided, Roland Baker, that what we needed to do was we needed to invest the money. We need to clean up the water. But at the same time, he wanted to reinvest the money in the communities, period. It wasn't up for debate. It was a mandate that if we're going to spend, basically the estimate back then was about $1.2 billion. If we're going to spend $1 billion, we're going to make sure that the businesses and the people of Prince George's County benefit from it, 100%. The reason that they chose a partner is because it wasn't possible to write a scope, to then just put that out on the street and have designers bid and, just because it's hundreds of projects, it's thousands of things that need to go on. So a partner made sense.
A private sector partner.
A private sector partner.
Yeah.
The government we passed what was called the Clean Water Act fees. And so that created a pot of money that could fund future loans and bonds to produce the projects that needed to be done. So there was a funding mechanism put in place. There was a partnership that was put in place that could carry out this scale of endeavor.
To gain insight into the origins and impacts of the Clean Water Partnership, I spoke with Sanjeev Sinha, the CEO of CIS. Sanjeev, very excited to have a conversation with you. Tell me about CIS, when it was started, why it was started.
CIS is a real estate development and infrastructure solutions company that was started in 2013. It was started because Prince George's County in Maryland was in discussions with US EPA, and on both sides, both the county side and at the EPA, on the EPA end, They were looking for delivery models, business models that could result in very significant scale up of green stormwater infrastructure solutions for the protection of Chesapeake Bay. So that was the genesis of CIS. We have done over $300 million worth of programs and projects over the last decade successfully, with significant transitions both on the counties and at CIS during that time frame. And the fact that the teams are steadily working hand in hand over 10 years, that's a credit to both the county's priorities and the discipline to stay with it, as well as CIS folks to be able to deliver it. I think that $300 million worth of work is roughly about 425 individual projects over the last 10 years. So you're really looking at like 40 projects a year. The second thing that is very unique about CIS is that we engage businesses in the communities that we work in. So small businesses, minority-owned businesses, women-owned businesses. It is part of our business culture. It's a key value proposition of CIS to do that in the communities that we are in. So over the last 10 years, local businesses in Prince George's County have done 79% of the work, out of the $310 million worth of work that we have done, which is very good for the community because at the end of the day, the money that the community is investing in doing all these projects stays within the community. And it has had more than $600 million worth of economic impact based on third-party economists that have been tracking the program. At the end of the day, it is very important and it's part of our corporate ethos to develop the ecosystem of contractors, consulting firms, and the other partners in a manner that their businesses grow.
Then I sat down with Roland Jones of CIS to learn more about how this community-based public-private partnership works.
Public-private partnerships have been around for a long time, but this was the first community-based public-private partnership.
What does that mean, community-based? What makes that unique?
So what it meant was that we were not only going to solve the issue that was at hand, i.e., that we needed to do an environmental cleanup and clean the water and meet those requirements. We were also going to figure out a way that we could build in social economic requirements that could be met by the county. And when you're in government, you want to get maximum return on every dollar that you spend. So you not only want to solve your issue and solve your problem, you want to figure out how you can build your economy, how you can provide jobs, how you can create opportunities. One of the important things to remember about this also is that Prince George's County is in a floodplain. So flooding has been an issue for a very long time, and that didn't go away. So we had not only flooding that was a problem, you also had water quality that was a problem. So we had to solve those issues.
Wow. I think one of the unique aspects of this partnership is kind of the way it works financially. Is that fair to say?
Yes.
And could you explain that a little bit on what that means?
So on the government side, the reason why you do public-private partnerships is that you can mitigate some of the risks from you. You don't have a government that's taking on this project by itself and they're encountering all the financial risks. So you have a private partner that comes in, and the way the finances generally work out is that the private partner will take a lot of the risk, and especially in the beginning of it. And then the government has a longer time to pay, and it's a much more, beneficial situation for the government, because governments are great for certain things. They're great for creating laws and regulations and getting people to do things from a regulatory or a legal standpoint, but they're not as good as corporate or private entities in terms of execution. So you need to have both. We had a need to get things done efficiently, effectively, cost efficiently, most importantly, but we needed to have the law side of it telling people you were going to have to pay for this, because essentially this is a benefit that you deserve and that you get as a citizen within any jurisdiction. But you need to have the corporate side to be able to execute on it efficiently and effectively. Generally, corporations are much more cutting edge. They have better solutions. They have better implementations of those solutions, and they can get things done.
Sure. So what's the arrangement then? How does it just kind of work practically? You've got Prince George's County, you've got CIS. How do you all approach this work? Yeah.
So you have Prince George's County, the public entity, and CIS, the private entity, coming together to create the Clean Water Partnership. So a lot of people think that the Clean Water Partnership is a legal entity. It's not. It's simply a naming convention. So we are responsible. We have a number of requirements and responsibilities to go out, and we can't self-perform. So unlike an engineering firm, say if you were to get HDR or Black and Beach or someone like that, that would be an engineering firm or a design firm like Soltez or Charles P. Johnson. They can self-perform the design aspect of it. You would get the engineering aspect of it executed. You would hire a GC to do all of that. So we really do program management from the standpoint of putting the right people in the right places that can execute on it.
They also added a requirement for the use of county-based local and minority businesses. And there had to be a minimum number of all the work hours had to be done by county residents. So those were the two biggest things. In addition, the stormwater field back then wasn't what it is today. We didn't have the capacity. We've had designers and engineers, but they didn't really have a stormwater water quality understanding. They had an understanding of civil and the civil nature of it, and some specialized in the stormwater, but it wasn't a big market. It was a very small market. It was specialized. The same thing with the contractors. It's like you had these landscaping guys and you have these giant the civil works guys, and there wasn't anything in between. So part of what the partnership was to do was to launch a mentor-protégé program and an economic development, business development program that could then enhance the capacity of the businesses we have today, and also to bring in new businesses, because you can't do $1 billion with the same 8 contractors that we had and be successful. So that was another big component of what it was. The other component, now we're getting into the community-based parts. So the community-based issue is they wanted to make sure that this wasn't the same old government program. The government saying, we're doing this, we're doing this, we're doing this. It was, we wanted to hear from the communities. What is your impact? What is your request? And at the same time, be able to educate the communities. And so there was a large component put in there for community outreach and education. And so programs started to evolve from mentor-protégé, from the socioeconomic development programs, from the community outreach and education programs. And that's how the partnership got launched. That's why it's there and why it's community-based.
The Clean Water Partnership has been around for over a decade and has incredible accomplishments for the environment and the economy, as highlighted by Roland and Jim.
It's important that as part of the water quality that we're trying to get to, extracting certain things like sediment and nitrogen and phosphorus and things of that nature. So
those are the big problems in the Chesapeake Bay, right?
Yes. So 57,800 pounds of nitrogen have been removed. 8,100 pounds of phosphorus have been removed. Suspended solids, 5.6 million pounds of that.
We've just passed the $340 million mark. And of that, about 320 million of that has gone in the ground, and it's been about $25 million to maintain it over this time. And now, when I say 25 million to maintain it, we had 400 legacy devices that were aged like 30 years old that we had to bring into the program and do a lot of restorative maintenance on those devices. So that's why that maintenance cost is a little bit higher than what you'd expect. But the other thing is, of that, $262 million has stayed right here in the county with local and minority businesses. That's 80% of all the money that we've spent just stays here in the county. The other huge fact is we've got, we track all the man hours worked on the projects, and we've just passed the 1.2 million in hours. And we're at 618,000 hours have been worked by county residents. So that's about 51%.
One of the most important aspects of the Clean Water Partnership is the mentor-protégé program. Roland shares more about how it works.
Part of what we do is we have an outstanding mentor-protégé program. We've had we're on our 7th cohort now. Of those cohorts, probably close to $50 million has been earned by the members of those cohorts. We not only do horizontal construction, we are now working with Prince George's County Office of Central Services to do vertical construction too. So if you are a diverse firm, a minority firm that meets the criteria, you can be a part of this mentor protege program at no cost to you. Here again, we're trying to build a bench. We're trying to build economic capabilities where individuals who have the ability or the mindset to be entrepreneurs can learn about how to do business. Most of the time, people who are in business come from location. You may have worked for, say, the New York Times. You know how to be a journalist. You don't know how to be a business person because you don't know how to be an accountant, a lawyer, a tax person, those types of things. So we try to teach people and initiate them to back office types of services. We bring in speakers. We give them access to information and resources to help them grow and prosper.
And that all feeds into the idea of it being a community-based partnership, right? You're lifting up the community and the people that work here and live here.
So therefore, the tax dollar that's being spent to actually solve the water issue, the stormwater issue, is solving more than just that stormwater issue.
To dive deeper into the Mentor Protege program, I spoke with Michael Burke of the Clean Water Partnership.
Typically, when you're doing infrastructure projects, companies are coming in from all over the place. They're coming into this marketplace. The revenue doesn't stay here. The workers aren't from here, and they leave, right? And the local folks don't get the business. And so to me, most projects in a community should be done by people in the community if you have capacity. So the question always is there enough capacity? Because what those companies from outside say is, well, y'all don't have enough capacity, you can't do the work. You'll have to use third parties, or the work it'll be substandard, or whatever it is that they'll use as their excuse for not including local and minority businesses. So the benefit of having it stay in the county is obviously county firms hire people from the county. So we have a resident participation requirement as well. So if you hire local firms, they're going to hire local people. And I think those are the benefits of having a program like this. The money stays in the community. The other thing is we teach the folks how to get work outside of the community. So the goal is not to teach them how to just do our work, but to teach them how to do this kind of work, green infrastructure work, so they can pursue work in other markets. Montgomery County, DC, we have large authorities, water authorities, etc. Everybody's doing something to improve the quality of the environment. So the first thing we looked at is what are the barriers to entry for small and minority business? What keeps them from getting work? And there are several things. A, they feel like they don't get opportunities. B, they don't have bonding capacity. C, finance, cash flow. And cash flow is a derivative of how fast companies are paying small businesses. So there's a plethora of things that happen that prevent small and minority businesses from participating in large opportunities. One of the beauties of green infrastructure is that I can have a $100,000 project, or I can have a $5 million project. Well, $100,000 projects are accessible to small and minority businesses because of size and scope. And we've done a lot of things that we built into the Mentor Protege program based on those barriers. So CIS has a quick pay program, put an escrow fund in place so that the firms get paid within 30 days. CIS bonds the jobs at the GC level. And that first $1 million bonding covers the small businesses for up to $1 million. So the other thing the mentor-protégé program looked at is not just construction and estimating and teaching green infrastructure, but what's the status and the health of the businesses that are coming through the program, so we could help them be better companies, whether that's marketing, whether that's back office accounting, websites, you name it. So we look at their entire business, because not only do we want them to be good at putting our work in the ground, we want them to be healthy companies so they can get other work. So we do the whole plethora of the things that most small businesses need. So we do a business development plan for each firm that comes into the Protégé program, where we actually interview the owner, talk to the owner about where they're going, their vision, their business, what their business needs. We ask them questions like, do you have an accountant or a CPA firm? Do you have bonding? Do you have a line of credit? Why or why not? And they tell us their story. The other thing we want to know is, who is the owner? Understanding who owns these companies and where they come from helps you have a better sense for what the business can do and what the passion of the owner and the ownership company is. Where most large firms don't really, I've been in so many meetings with large GCs, they never ask the small business where they came from, ever.
I want to pivot to Prince George's County and the Clean Water Partnership and the incredible expansion of green infrastructure and all kinds of other measures, and then the role of these folks in that. Could you just talk about how so many of these protégés have been part of the transformation that's happened here over the past decade?
Yeah, we built an industry here. One of the things that Roland Jones said when he was on the government side was he wanted to build a green infrastructure industry in Prince George's County. I thought he was crazy, but because I thought, how do you build capacity like that in a marketplace like this? But we set out with that as a mantra, right? We heard him, and that's what we started to do. And so part of the program was, again, like I said earlier, teach people how to fish, right? And so we built capacity we've had 7 cohorts, 60 firms come through the mentor-protégé program. 25 of those firms have done $43 million in contracts at the Clean Water Partnership. We haven't counted how much work they've done as a result of the Clean Water Partnership in other marketplaces, but we know they have. We've had firms who've changed their business model having come through the Mentor-Protégé program. We had a landscaper company who we introduced them to a project with Skanska. They won the project, and now they changed their channels of work for landscaping. So now they do landscape on large construction projects, where before they were dealing with predominantly HOAs. They started getting rid of some of the HOAs that are trouble and focusing on construction work, and they've probably done millions of dollars in construction over the last 5 years. The maintenance program here at the Clean Water Partnership is all small business, all. Everybody that's doing maintenance, and we have over 300 maintenance projects. And so it's a whole small business program specialized in maintenance of BMPs, because whatever CIS puts in the ground, they have to maintain for 30 years.
Yeah, maintenance is a huge part of green infrastructure, huge.
Lastly, I heard from Roland and Jim about the incredible impact the Clean Water Partnership has had on schools in Prince George's County, and got some closing advice for other communities.
We have worked and done work at 58 schools that have devices that have been put in there. We have touched a school population of over 40,000 students. And we have a very unique program called the Treat and Teach program, where we build outdoor classrooms that are surrounding the topic of the resiliency, the environment, stormwater management. And it has really helped to educate and expose people. As we say, educate and enlighten people, because it's very key. And we also have a philosophy that if you educate the kids, they'll go home and educate the parents. But it's really critical that we have these outdoor classrooms, because the kids can go out there. We have placards that we leave at these locations, and at all of our locations, whether they're new projects or whether they're maintenance projects, where it explains what's happening at that particular project. Here again, the continual education and enlightenment, the spreading of knowledge will really help create hope hopefully sensitivity to the importance of the environment and the importance of water and water quality and water quantity.
One of the programs that came out of our community outreach and education was what we call the Treating and Teaching Program, which is a partnership that we developed with the Prince George's County Public Schools. The schools are a great place to do stormwater infrastructure because, again, large parking lots and roofs that don't have any treatment, and they're willing partners. But the other
and there's a lot of them.
And there's a lot of them.
Right.
There are 240 schools in this county, and so we met with the schools, and they were like, "Yes, we love it. Oh, by the way, would you mind doing some education and some environmental literacy as well?" So we got a grant from NIFWIF to do environmental literacy at the schools, and the Anacostia Watershed Society and the Schmidt Center. We all partnered together with, I can't even tell you how many groups, the University of Maryland, USDA, everybody is involved in this thing. And what it does is it provides not only professional development for teachers from an environmental literacy and climate resilience bent. It's not all just about stormwater. So they can learn about that, but we also include maintenance staff and administrators. And so everybody now knows about the programs and why they're there. Because I can't tell you how many rain gardens that we've seen that are at a school that have been mowed down.
Oh, that hurts.
It does. But we were able to say, but we'll maintain them. So you don't have to worry about it. And the facilities maintenance guys actually use the students sometimes during the summer to maintain some of the devices. And we've got different ways that we do it. But one of the coolest things was we were able to include the students in this, from the design aspects, from the construction, and they actually help us with the planting. So they get hands-on experience. All the teachers are involved. Everybody's involved at every level at this thing, and it goes over and over. We're into our 62nd school now. We've got outdoor classrooms that we've added as a component of this, and
by my great math skills, that means you've touched like a quarter of the schools. That's incredible. Wow.
And now we're working on the other 3/4.
Yes, there you go.
We want to have them too.
In closing, what advice would you have for other communities around the country, other local government entities that might want to head down this type of path with a community-based P3?
So the first thing is, go talk to the community. Find out what it is that they want. And you need to continue to do that, because when we started this back in the day, that we heard a lot about litter cleanup and wanting the water to be cleaned, and there were various things. Today, though, when we go out in the community, it's more about flooding. The climate change that's added to our rainfall totals that are impacting areas that were really impacted before. So now we're trying to pivot to what the community needs, but listening to the community, because the community has a lot of needs. And then when you've got a scale, and then you need to develop a financing mechanism. It doesn't need to be a lot. It just needs to be steady, and it needs to be thought out and planned. When we did this, it was a 30-year approach. It wasn't, hey, how do we get this done over the next 3 years? It's a 30-year commitment. And but it was the leadership understanding what their own communities wanted. And they were clear that they wanted the environmental change, but they didn't want the cost to go out of state, out of county. They wanted it developed here.
You're in the water loop.